there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. So I had this fun idea in my head of what I wanted to play around with, and I'm going to start off here. I have the Hero Arts Infinity dies in the circles obviously, and I have just chosen two that are similar in size but one slightly bigger than the other. I have some of the Embossable window plastic. Now I find that this acetate cuts really well with dies, so this tends to be the main one that I use, and I am just going to use a little bit of low tack tape to tape these on, and this is creating myself a stencil. Now you may have a stencil already in hand that has circles in it, but I wanted the stencils to be able to match some dies so that I could cut masks as well. Now I am a big fan of the Gina masking paper. This one holds up to a lot of ink, and that's really important in this card. So I'm going to cut several of these. I am cutting as sparingly as I can, layer up 3 layers of the masking paper and run that through my die cutting machine, and the dies cut through this perfectly, so I don't have to run it through 3 times to get the same shape. Anyhow, I cut quite a few of those masks, and now I have these stackable ink daubers, finger daubers here. Now these are no longer available. I am really sorry. I emailed scrapbook.com and they have discontinued them, but this is how I store my finger daubers for my Simon Hurley die inks. And I've just taken my stencil here that I created, and I am just inking down on a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of watercolor cardstock. And I'm using watercolor cardstock because I find this the easiest to blend on by far. And I love all the help I can get. I have blended one circle in some Clear Skies dye ink. Then I am going to move on to some Later Gator. I did put one of the masks over my first circle. Now I am not going to ink over it at the moment, but I will be inking up my entire page. So I'm going to mask as I go just to make life easy. Now this does take up a lot of masks, and you could use some copy paper or printer paper with some removable adhesive on the back. However, I just wanted that full adhesion on of the masking paper so that when I came to ink blend over top, it definitely didn't shift. And with the inking, I am doing one side much heavier, and this is to give the circles a little bit more dimension. So I'm making sure that I ink heavily on one side, and then the other side kind of fades out nicely to a lighter color of that same color. Now I did stick with the same brand of dye inks here, but there is no reason at all why you can't mix and match your inks. I would say it would be easiest to stick to either dye or pigment inks instead of kind of mixing matching those, but any dye inks that you have from any company should work relatively well together if your colors are sorted. The only thing that I was trying not to do, which made a little bit difficult, is I really wanted to make sure I didn't put the same color on top of the same color. So I was masking them, and the masks are a little bit see-through. I can kind of see whether it's a cool or a warm color underneath, but sometimes I did guess a little bit wrong, but that's okay. It didn't really matter. I was really just having a nice time blending inks, and sometimes I didn't really have an end goal in mind for what I was going to do with this, but I was really enjoying it, and I was really excited for the outcome, because when you ink everything and you mask everything, you kind of don't get to see the progress because everything is covered underneath the masks. So at this point, although I am skipping through a little bit of it, I wasn't sure what it looked like underneath, and I wasn't even 100% sure if this would look any good. But once I had covered up everything, and then you can see I inked over a few little spots without masks, and then this is kind of the reveal, and this is maybe my favorite part of the whole video. So I like that there is a little bit of white left under some of the masks because that highlights the circle and I think separates them really nicely. So I was glad that I cut the same size masks. And then once I have peeled everything off, I really liked the look of it. This was fun. This was a fun technique to do, and it was really relaxing. So once I wanted to turn it into a card, I have some black and some white cardstock here. I also have some Stick It adhesive. This is just a very thin double-sided adhesive, and I often use this one when I'm going to be die cutting because it's so thin that it doesn't make it tricky to die cut, and it still die cuts through really nicely and cuts perfectly. So that is handy. I've put a little bit of the Stick It adhesive on the back of the white and on the back of the black. I have die cut out 2 of each happy birthday in the white and then 1 for the black one, which will be a shadow. Now these dies do come with a shadow as well. They come with the word and then the shadow, but I'm not using that for today. I did just keep the dies together and didn't separate them because that's handy for me. So I just pulled the shadow from the outside and then pulled all those little bits from the insides of the letters. You guys will be happy to know that I have kept the little tittle from above the I in birthday, so I will make sure to do that as well. But I'm using the black as a shadow, and I have layered up 2 of the white, and then when I come to put it on the black, I just shift it slightly upwards and to the right, and then that way the black creates a little kind of drop shadow. And using the Stick It adhesive just means I don't have to mess with glue. I'm not worrying about that. And the good thing about Stick It adhesive is that you can readjust until you press down firmly. You can kind of shift it around and change your mind. So I am making sure to do the little dot on the top of the eye, 2 layers of the white, and then making sure I get the little black shadow just like the words. And then it's kind of a matter of putting this all together. But because this is a relatively simple kind of card, it's not too complex, I do need to do a few little things to kind of step up this card to make it really special. I am going to trim it down for starters, and that creates a really nice border of white. However, I felt like this card was also needing a black border because I had used a black shadow for the words as well. So this is my trick. You guys have seen it in videos before. When I don't want to add an entire layer of cardstock, I just use some low-tack tape, and here I'm going to use some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, which is a really nice dark black pigment ink. And I'm just going to sponge it on with a finger dauber, and as I said, I am masking it off with some low-tack tape. And as I've said, this is my favorite low-tack tape because I want to guarantee that I'm not going to ruin my project at this point. And this tape is spot on. It works so well. It is the perfect amount of tackiness, so they better never discontinue it. But anyway, now I have my really nice, perfect little border without adding any layers of cardstock, and that creates a nice white border from my card base and then the black border from my inking. I'm going to add some matte medium. This is the Ranger matte medium, so that I can get this squared up nicely on my card base. As I said, at this point I've put a lot of effort into the actual card front, so I want to make sure that everything is going to plan. I'm going to pop the words on, and again, because I have that Stick It adhesive, I'm just able to peel off the backing and kind of place them. You'll notice that I don't press down hard. I just gently press it there, and I'm actually going to readjust these to make sure that I get the angle just right. So that was a little bit too steep for my liking, so I just change it up just a little bit, and then once I'm happy, I press down really hard, and it is nice and secure in place. Now here come a few of those finer details. I do need to make sure I add on that little bit on top of the eye, but I am going to add a few iridescent sequins, just a couple, because I don't want to take away from that gorgeous background, but I feel like the iridescent ones really pick up the color that is underneath them. So that's why I went with these ones. I'm adding a little bit of liquid glue, the same matte medium, and then I have a wax pencil here. I will link to all of the supplies that are still available down below. You just have to expand the little box down below on YouTube, and you'll be able to see the list of supplies. And these little wax pencils are super cheap, and I found them the best for picking up sequins and things. Then I'm going to add some glossy accents onto the letters. Now this goes on a little bit cloudy, and it's kind of like a medium thick liquid that goes on, and it dries perfectly clear, ever so slightly dimensional, and really shiny. So as I said, I want to add the finer details to make this card a little bit special. Anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed seeing this card today. I had a whole lot of fun creating it, and I'm excited to try this technique with other shapes as well. Thank you so much for joining me, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next video. Let me know what you think of this one down below in the comment section, and I will see you next time. Thanks, bye!